Welcome back this week, everybody, as are doing our part 2 of my video game book club of
Jusant.
Wow.
I figure we need to say at least right once so it doesn't see the thumbnail. Or the
No, you look, you can read it when you tap on it, and if you can't read it, maybe you're visually impaired, you probably have voiceover, at which point voiceover would read it for you. So regardless, you would know.
Sure.
You would know it. As long as you look anywhere on the device when you tap, you would know what the name is. But for further notice, after the first time, I will never refer to the game by its original name. It will continually get more French.
You keep saying that, but you are saying the name of the game.
I'm just hearing it right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Good. I'm glad we're all on the same page. So we're picking up where we left off. In chapter 4, where we finished the game. We have chapter 4, 5, and 6. This isn't very long. You noticed, as we talked last time, Christian, when you started this one, right? The menu just went away. You stand up, right? From
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
It's cool. Stylish. It's stylish.
Yeah. Slick.
So let's get into it. So chapter 4, again, just to recall, each chapter seems to introduce a new mechanic and maybe an anti-mechanic. Chapter 4's new mechanic is little lightning bugs, if you will, that you can call to you, and they carry you, essentially. So if you jump, they help you jump further. You float higher to grab on.
Much like the things in Journey.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So those little carpet things that would fly, the ribbon things that would fly around you, if you can
Yeah.
call to them, they'd come to you and help you jump up.
I don't recall this chapter necessarily having like an anti-mechanic, something that makes climbing more difficult. This just was what it was.
Maybe some further sections to where you're kind of like thinking about your
Stamina.
stamina more, but...
Or there's like bigger gaps that are going to use those little bugs now. But
Yeah, So I've noticed in chapter 4, 5, and 6, I was much more aware of my stamina meter.
Or how it depletes.
Any other point. Yeah.
Because you got the meter, but it also, like, until you get to a ledge or, like, one of those, like, little grapple points that you can, like, start over your meter. Because the more you jump, the more of that meter gets taken over permanently. So you're jumping, you now will have, like, a very small sliver of stamina to work with until you reach one of those grapple points or the ledge, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, I wasn't really paying attention to this too much until now, because I have to.
Yeah. So chapter 4, in my experience, chapter 4 was the longest chapter of the game so far. And I thought it was an interesting one because you're climbing, but essentially inside of a cave in this pillar mountain, right? Like you have an entire world in this enormous cave system inside this mountain that's a pillar. Who am I to judge? It's not my fantasy world. But it was interesting. It was pretty. It's the only chapter that I missed one of the murals in. And I believe I figured out how to identify the murals by the drawings on the wall. And I think the one that I missed, you were supposed to, like, right in the very beginning, you were just supposed to, like, descend down. But there's no, like, walkway or grapple points down. I think you were literally just supposed to, like, grapple, and instead of going up, just rappel down. Because I saw, once I got further into chapter 4, I saw what looked like a mural painted on the ground. And I was like, I don't know how you're supposed to do that beyond maybe rappel down, hover above it, hit your little button, and then it would unlock the mural. It was the only one. And then throughout the rest of this playthrough, I continued to get 1 or 2 more little wind chime things that you spin in a circle. Still don't know what the hell they do. Never figured it out.
I don't know. I mean, I missed a lot of them.
Purpose.
And when you go to the main menu, you can look at extras, and it'll show you which ones you've gotten, how many you missed. I think in this last part, this like second half, I missed a lot more than I did in the first one.
Yeah.
Maybe better.
Chapter
more
4
well
was
hidden. I'm not sure.
Chapter 4 was hard because it was so vertical and in the cave, and I found myself at times backtracking because I would be like, oh, I don't know if I've been there. Everything looks similar enough, and I would backtrack. And like I might find a mural or I might find a seashell, and I'd be like, dope. But like, it was harder to tell. Chapter 5, which we'll talk about in a minute, I didn't think it was as hard to find those things, but they did make you go further off the beaten path. So like
sure.
if you know, we know in chapter 5, like our whole goal of this game is to go up, right? So there are plenty of times where I see my path straight up in chapter 5, but I also see climbable objects like as far as the eye can see to the left. And it's like I know that's not critical path, so I know something's over there. And every time it was there, and it was hard to get to, and it was longer, but it was easy to see. Chapter 4 is very hard because you were in that cave system. It was hard to see like where have I been,
Anything
where haven't
outside
I,
the
what's going to
spire
happen.
in.
Yeah. But it was pretty. It was an easy mechanic that takes us to chapter 5. I thought the transition from chapter 4 to 5, because for those of you listening, it's just a title screen. Like there's no pause. The game doesn't break. You usually get a cutscene and like you keep walking and it just opens.
That's true.
Up.
Yeah.
I loved the transition from inside this cave to chapter 5, where you step outside, back on the edge of the mountain, and it's like covered in grass. Chapter 5 is called Mirage. It's all covered in grass and beautiful and lush. But it's so windy. So that is the anti-mechanic in chapter 5. You have to do with the wind, and sometimes the wind helps you climb, because it'll blow.
It's also I was gonna say it's like the mechanic and the anti-mechanic.
Yeah, like it'll, if you're trying to climb up or go to the left, like you'll have to wait till the wind blows to the left, and it'll throw you further. But also, if it's blowing straight down and you're climbing up, it kills your stamina and it makes it harder for you to go up. I'll be interesting to see how you feel about this. I thought that chapter 5 was also among the shortest chapters, not counting the sixth one, but it was among the shortest.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was brilliant because too much longer with that wind blowing down would have really started to be like, it's overstayed its welcome, right?
Would have really started to piss you off.
Not piss me off, because like I was navigating it fine, but like the last, after exploring, the last stretch is no barrier, so it's constant wind blowing down on you, and you're just like, little climb, rest for a minute to get my stamina back, little climb, rest. And if that would have gone on for longer, you would have been like, this does suck.
I didn't have to have. We can talk about it, but I didn't have that issue. So with because I used the PlayStation 5 controller on, like on the PC. And so I don't know if it's like with the pressure sensitive, like the triggers or whatever, but if I just sat there and like tapped like very quickly, like the character would just be like, like it would just like go so fast, like fly up a wall.
Interesting.
And so
okay.
I just did that. I never had any issues with the stamina.
So even in chapter 5, you never had like the stamina bar dropping? Interesting.
I mean, it would drop, but I would always look at how close I was to the end and be like, I can make it. I mean, there was a couple times where I got red and flashing when I was pulling myself up, but I would always make it.
I had a couple times in 4 and 5 where I overextended myself. In 4 was because I was exploring too much. In 5, though, with the wind, like, if I was trying to climb, I wouldn't always I wouldn't lean the right way, so it'd take me a minute to grab something. And there were a couple times where I found myself with, like, just the littlest bit of stamina, so I'd, like, climb, rest for the last, like, 4 steps, and then I would be good. But I thought it was a cool mechanic, and I thought it was well done. I thought 5 was very pretty with all the lush greenery over the wind, or over the mountain, and all the wind blowing. I thought it was really well done. And then comes chapter 6. So, just so everybody know.
Can I ask you, because of your ultimatum that you gave this game, at the end of chapter 5, when you blow the horn, and then like you take the
so okay, so I don't know if we've
end of chapter 4
so
leading to chapter 5
at the end of every
6,
chapter, at the end of most chapters, actually all of them, you blow a horn. I think we talked about that.
It lights up the little thing on the bottom.
It lights up. At the end of chapter 5, you get to this really high point in the mountain, and you blow a horn, and your little companion guy, like a large, to me it looks like a big sunfish, if anybody knows what like an Atlantic or oceanic sunfish
is.
Like,
it is a little
flat,
bit like a sunfish, yeah.
Yeah. A massive thing comes out of the sky.
Like
comes up, floats.
They're ballasts. They're all the same race. They're ballasts.
Yeah, it's a large version of our little guy. But he looks a little rocky gray skin. He looked different than the.
He's weathered. Yeah, he's got things growing on him, things that are on him for
so,
each time. Yeah,
he's been around the block.
You grab onto him, And there's a fun little mechanic there too. Like you actually have to. That's part of you have to climb up him with the wind blowing and stuff. And you could tell like there's nets and other stuff that are hanging on to him, and he flies you like almost like into the atmosphere, right?
It flies you
like,
the rest of the way up.
Yeah, all the way up, and it's about as high as you can go in this place. And if you've gone through the atmosphere, so you no longer see like the clouds and the sun, it's just darkness, right? Like dark sky above you. And the chapters to this point have been called like Daymark and Migration and Solstice, Convergence and Mirage. This chapter is called Syzygig.
Yeah.
Syzygy.
Did you look up to see if that's a foreign language word or?
No, I didn't look it up.
All right, fair enough.
Did you?
No.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what. That's a whole lot of consonants. A whole lot of consonants for a foreign language. But so he flies us up. At this point in time, I was like, "This is cool." It is. With my ultimatum, I have no problem with my ultimatum to this point.
With what's happening, yeah.
With what's happening, I was like, "This is a cool little cutscene, and we're climbing, we're doing our thing." We come up through the atmosphere, we get to the top of this mountain, and all of a sudden, what do you see? It's a crater, and in this crater is this huge monolith, and all around is snow-covered land. And our huge ballast essentially crash lands in the snow. And we hop down and we kind of walk to the front and put our hand on it and look at it, and like it just closes its eyes. And this is the point where I go, okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, I was like, uh-oh, right? Like I've put together that though they look different, this is clearly an adult ballast, we have a baby ballast.
I didn't put that together until the very, very end. So to me, I thought this was just a whale that they were talking about in those photos on those wall scrawls. And then I'm like, okay, and then it dives, and then as you're walking up to that monolith, you're noticing that some of these lumps in the snow are not just mountain.
So that's when I put it together, right? We put our hand on this one. I was like, weird. And as soon as you start walking down to the monolith,
kind of thing going on.
I started seeing. I did the same thing, Press. I was like, well, let me explore over here to see if there's a painting or something. And I turn around as I walk back. And go, that mound looks like it has an eyeball. And I walked over. I was like, oh, I see another one.
Also,
and another one, and all of those ballasts are just like what we think dead, covered in snow. And this is the point where I was like, oh, I can't wait to get on this podcast and we're going to say, welcome to week 2. I did not complete this game. It's garbage trash. Moving on, right? Like that's
also
what was
at that point, like when you
happen.
get off of the whale guy, whatever, the ballast.
Yeah.
Your little guy looking a little sleepy. You're
He gets
holding
cold.
him. You're holding him.
He's
Like
cold.
you can't do like any of your stuffs until you put him away, but like you're holding him. Did both of you guys press both the triggers before you put him away?
Both triggers.
Both triggers?
So if you press both triggers, you will pull the little blue guy up to you to warm him up.
And he coos.
Yeah. Like, oh,
and then you put him in the thing.
No, I did not do that.
When I did that, I'm like, okay, maybe he's just like sleeping cold.
What I tried to do is I tried to use the button when we put him in the backpack
and it goes
later.
It does a
and
little
it's like
spurt.
a poof. And I was like, oof.
Yeah.
So Preston, to that point, so I walk up to the monolith, and we're still carrying our little ballast buddy, right? And I notice that all these ballasts are dead, and I'm already pissed. Like, I'm super pissed. And I'm already prepared to not, like, just rage on this game. So then we walk over to the monolith, and I pull him around, and I do the little, like, warm him up thing, where it shows a little scene, you warm him up, and he literally, like, and then you put him up. And all it does is enrage me more. Because now I'm like, you MFers.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah, I was like, you are going to make me so mad if I can't save this little cute guy. And I've carried him this far. And like, my character realizes it. We put him in the warm little pack. Anyway. So the monolith is interesting because it has what looks like constellations. But painted around the constellations are some of the shapes of the ballasts. Not all of them, but some of them. And then inside of the constellations are climbing points, but some you can climb on and some you can't, just based on the space. But as you climb certain ones, the constellation lights up. And then that's how you know your path. So you climb up like 3 different levels, which are pretty big and spread out, and you get to the top, and you blow the horn, and right as you blow the horn, like nothing really happens. And you're like, well, shit, our little ballast guy's not doing good. So we blow the horn again. As when you look up, there's this huge ball of water, I assume. It looks like
orb.
a planet. It's a blue orb. It looks like a planet.
Probably the ocean.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, it is the ocean, right? Like because it's moving. Yeah. It's moving like the sun would move, but it looks like water, right? So you blow it again, nothing really happens. You start to light up every time you blow the horn, so you light up this time too. And our little ballast is still struggling. And then you blow it a third time with a much longer blow, and all of a sudden, all of the ballasts around the ground come to life, and they shake off the snow, and they start floating, and the monolith all lights up, and including our little ballast buddy floats up out of our hands, and gives a little like wistful like, I guess I'll be seeing ya.
It's not just out of your hands. Like what worried me the most was like, before this happens, you take him out and you put him like on this like sacrificial altar. And I'm sitting, I'm like, oh no, like this is not gonna bode well for Alex. And like he's like just kind of laying there, like half asleep, like not chirping. I'm like, man. And then once you start seeing them all rise up, I'm like, okay, all right,
yeah,
starting to feel a little better now.
That was the moment I felt better too, because I was prepared, like I was mentally preparing just to hate the game. So angry. So as all the ballasts start swimming up, he starts getting pulled up and floating up. Like clearly he's not as experienced in this.
That's when I realized that he is a small, tiny version of these big boys. I'm like, okay, all right, we got it now.
And they all float up, and then all of a sudden, rain starts falling, and starts dropping on our character. It's this beautiful, dramatic music, and then that's the end. And I don't know what to tell you all. I would assume that, Christian, to your point, that was the ocean, and the ocean will rain back down and fill the drought-covered land. But then it brings up other questions, like, do the ballasts then fall down with it and they start swimming? I mean, I guess they could fly. So, like, are they back in the sky and everything's good again? I got the feeling, because of the amount of ballasts up there and stuff, I got the feeling that our character's journey maybe isn't the first time this has happened. Like, it almost seems like this is a cycle that
part of like either a race or a tribe that like is known to do this. And once they finally get one of their tiny ballasts, they're like, okay, is our mission, once this shit goes down and it gets the dry spell essentially, that we will take one of these baby ballasts, we will take them up to the promised land to fucking fulfill the destiny to bring water back to the land.
Yeah, and that was my feeling, and the reason I think that is not all just because of all the ballast, but because like they have a term for this, right? They have like wall is the term for like low tide. So clearly it doesn't just happen once, like it's happened before and they know about it. So I that's why I think it's happened over.
But not necessarily everyone knows about it.
Maybe not everybody knows.
Because you're getting all those notes being like, oh, the water's going, what we gotta do, and then
did you ever
people just go off
did you guys,
to different
I missed the last note from Bianca. I saw the second to last one where she talks about they were like her party was going up and one guy had a harpoon and they were really like ready to kill a ballast because they thought it would bring water back.
I did not finish Bianca's notes.
Okay.
Oh, I remember the last one being her saying like this. I don't think I'm gonna be writing anymore. Like I'm done writing it. But it was just I thought it was just after the ballast one.
That was before the ballast one.
Okay.
Because it was when you're in the tower, and you have like these people who are like hanging out, and then, or she's hanging out with people, and then they're like, oh, so and so decided to stay behind. I can't really blame her. You know, if I could too. This is like this area has been really cool. Blah blah blah. But then she was like, but I don't know if I'm even gonna be able to bring myself to write anymore for the rest of this journey. And then the next one is when like they get up there and she starts talking about how they got some harpoons ready. They're gonna smoke somebody or try to smoke one of these ballasts.
Yeah, don't remember after that.
I when I looked into the menu, I did not get the last one, so I don't know. I didn't know if you guys had gotten it.
There were a few notes at the end I did not get because some of them got pretty tough.
They get pretty well hidden towards the end, all those kind of pieces.
They do, because there's so little area. Now, there's nothing hidden in Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is straight, according to
I thought that, like, maybe you'd get an achievement for... Because when you're climbing up the monolith, you're climbing up on these, like, light fixtures that are obviously constellations. Not all of them light up, but you can see
all of them light up.
There's some of them that you don't need to touch to get up to the top, that you could, like, rappel down to. So I rappelled down to those, but you don't get anything for lighting all those up. So I don't know if that changes the ending or if that does anything whatsoever.
I skipped one, and it showed me, like, right as they all lit up, there's one not lit up that I could have. I don't think it affected anything.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't seem like you got anything different than I did, so...
No. I was going to see if I could find the actual journal entry and read the last one.
I'm sure you can find them, yeah.
But, I mean, it's just in a video.
I'm trying to look them up, too.
I'll bring up something while you guys are looking it up. So there's one thing that you missed, or you didn't speak of, that I thought was really cool, is that it's not a reserve. What did they call it? It's where they essentially had all the water stored up in the mountain. I forget what they call it. Like, it wasn't a reservoir. I think it was like a D. But it was the spot where all like the jellyfish were, the flying jellyfish.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Yeah, in Chapter 4 it was very cool.
That whole area was incredible. Like, you're going through there, there's a lot of zip lines you're taking here and there. There's a bunch of like little, small, like little stalactite looking pillars here and there. You're kind of navigating through with all the jellyfish. I thought there was going to be some mechanic with the jellyfish, but it's just more of a background prettiness stuff of it. But I really liked the way it looked, that whole section.
I thought as a whole, like...
4 was probably my favorite as far as like the story that was in it, like all the spots that were in it. I really liked Chapter 4.
I think 5 was probably my favorite, but I thought all of the areas were unique. Did you find it, Christian?
Mm-hmm.
What did it say?
It's kind of anticlimactic, honestly. It's just so they make their way up there. They're getting ready to attack one of these ballasts, and Bianca basically tries to explain to everybody, like, I don't think that's what's happening here. It's clearly not what this is. Like, we need to figure out, like, how to, not... Like, it's not going to solve our problem, basically. And they're basically like, fuck you, you don't know what you're talking about. And so in the middle of the night, she throws all their spears away. And she's like, they're so desperate for life to go back to the way that it was, but the whole reason that we're here is because of the way that life was. And then that's the end.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe somehow they caused the drought?
It's what it sounds like, yeah.
A lot left up to interpretation, probably, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, so we can just talk about our general thoughts. So it is definitely a game that's open to interpretation. There is plenty of YouTube videos that are like the ending explained, right? And it's all interpretation. To me, I tend to lean the way, like, what I got out of this game is I tend to lean the way that Preston said. Like, it seems like this is more of a cycle and not the first time this has happened. And whether we come from the race of people that lived on the mountain or not, and I would say probably not.
I'm guessing
because
not.
we seem to be more magical and attuned to water in the world. I think, we're sent with our ballast to do what we did, accomplish a task and make it rain and make the low tide, make the water come back and get rid of the low tide. That's the way I lean to that. And it seems like there was this great civilization that lived on this mountain that benefited from the water and found ways to live. And then as the drought came and the tide went away, they all left because the ones that stayed couldn't figure out a way to bring water back. That's what I got out of it. I thought the game was absolutely gorgeous for what it was, right? I don't know really how to describe its graphics. It's not like photorealistic or anything. It's just a very pretty art.
It's got a distinct art style for sure.
Yeah. I thought, in general, I think it set out to do something in its mechanics, and I think it accomplished it. Christian, you brought this up last week where you were worried that, like, when we get to the end, are they going to pile everything up on each other, and it's just going to be a pain in the ass? I don't think they ever did. Now, they did a good job at saying, here's your mechanic for this chapter, do it. What they did do is if you started to explore to get all the collectibles, then maybe you need to like get the vine to come up to like reach this area or climb on the rock bugs. But they never really did that in a way that impeded the just general game progression, which I thought was good. And I thought as a whole, the mechanics worked. That's not to say it wasn't without its jank at times.
But it worked very well.
It worked well. At times, I would get my rope stuck on something, or just like
there was one time.
Put a couple things I get stuck swinging.
My rope got attached like on a fence, so like I'm trying to like jump off of it, and like just like I could have just reeled the damn thing in, but I didn't. But like I went to go off the cliff and like to grab something, and my guy just gets yanked over like that because the rope grabbed the fucking fence. It just stopped me from going where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Like okay, all right, and I just reeled it back in and started over. But yeah, it's occasionally you can get that, but it never impeded me to go where I wanted to go.
I had one reload. Like I had to reload a save. It lost me about 4 minutes of playtime. Yeah. It was in chapter 4 because I was in the cave. It was in chapter 4. And I don't know what happened, but like I swung to get over to an area and my stamina was low, but not out, right? Because I had kind of overextended. But I was like, okay, I'm going to put a pin in the wall and use that to swing to the next hold. Something happened where my character got stuck swinging. And even though like I had run out of stamina, but technically when you're swinging, you're not using stamina. So my stamina bar was down. I was swinging, so he wouldn't grab onto anything, but I couldn't stop swinging to like rest and let it come back no matter what I did. So I just somehow broke it and had to reload a save, and it lost like 4 minutes. Luckily, you're never too far from any just general progression, so it didn't ruin my time.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, okay, I did that. And there was another time in chapter 6 in the snow where I thought I was going to have to reload because there were a couple times you can't really jump in this game, right? You can walk and fall, which is ironic because like we're pretty agile. And there were a couple times coming down the hill, walking to the monolith where I'd get on a rock and like I would get stuck for a second and be like, oh, okay, let's see if I can get out of this. And
you can't jump, but you can only jump. You can't jump off a ledge. Like you
can't grab anything.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like when you're walking, your arms are glued to your body.
Yeah.
No, they're glued to the little blue guy.
Yeah, he's in the pack. But
no, you're holding on to him when you walk down.
No, in 6, you're holding on to it.
Oh, that's true.
Until you get to that one spot in the monolith, because I'm walking around the monolith trying to figure out where I can grab stuff, but he's not grabbing anything. He's got a blue guy. I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I'm like, okay, well, there's obviously this little step up here in the front of the monolith, and he's like, oh, okay, well, you'll step on that. Okay, you'll climb up that thing. Like, okay, and then he puts him away. So.
Yeah. So there were a couple times where the mechanics got a little goofy, but as a whole, it worked really well.
Yeah.
The overall game, I liked the pacing and timing. Like I think the 4 hours is probably pretty spot on for what this game is. It didn't overstay its welcome. And then I do think there were, like, the collectibles were a lot. Like, the Karens were fine, but they didn't lead to anything. The murals were my favorite. The wind chime things were cool, but, like, also didn't seem to lead to anything. And then I liked Bianca's notes, but I didn't care for the flavored notes, right, of, like, the shop or whatnot. So I would have maybe appreciated a couple of diverging stories that told one cohesive story versus, like, I'm waiting on my newspaper to be delivered, or like nobody's coming to our bar, so we got to close up shop, sort of thing. They could have cut down on that, but as a whole, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I could say that I enjoyed it because there was a little bit of time where I was prepared to go on a warpath.
Sure.
So what about you guys?
You go ahead, Preston. Go ahead.
Okay. I loved it. I had a great time with it. I'm really glad I came back to this thing after kind of just jumping off it just from whatever roadblock I hit, which is that double jump area. Because I love this game. I loved, like I said, grow home and grow up to where that's the main vein. You're just crawling. You're climbing up with the triggers. You're trying to find spots to climb up with. I love that kind of thing. It's a nice chill. Very cozy game.
It is a Preston game. It is a cozy game.
It's a very nice cozy game. Playing. Chill on the couch. Yeah. If you want to, put something in the background. If you want to, just start climbing this shit. Let's do it. I liked it a lot. The very small pieces of story that I did get, I liked. I was considering this to be a perfect 5 out of 5, but I did drop it down a little bit. My main issues, because I think it's a $20 game. It's 4 hours. Nothing overstays its welcome, and it gets the job done right. It gives you a little bit of story. I wish there was more story. I wish there was more explanation on what was going on and what we're actually doing. And I think the way you find objectives, the way your little blue guide kind of like shows you the 3 orbs, fucking never figured out what that was. I'm sure I could have spent time and just followed one of them and kind of pieced it together. But I wish there was a little more description of what I was doing with those circles in the distance and the colors that they were. Like maybe a note that says, hey, I got one of these ballasts. It's weird he jumped on my head and I saw these colors and noticed it was pointing towards this or noticed it was pointing towards that. Something to give me a little more flavor to like help me figure out what that is, because I played the entirety of this game and still had no idea what the fuck those little color circles. I'm assuming they went to certain areas. I think even when I went to one of those like little spinny spots and I'm like, okay, this is obviously showing me a circle right next to it, so like obviously that's gonna be it. But didn't think that was the greatest thought out way to kind of point things out. But overall, I had a great time with it. Wonderful time. I'd say I'd probably get it a 4 out of 5. Just Christian, for before you wanting more story.
And before you go, Preston, I'll agree with you there. I appreciate games that do have a bit of interpretation, but there are other times I think you don't need it. Like I think you can.
Well, I want it. I want to have some more explanation to it. Like this is a fantastical fantasy world. I would like to have more explanation because there's not going to be a sequel. There's not going to be anything else that's going to give us more. No one's going to do a comic book based off this or a book based off of this to kind of explore the world of this Jusant. It's just I want more world building in there, right? So like I don't get it, and it's like legally to interpret your interpretation. I'm like, but this stuff is so cool. I want to know what you're. No, I'm not a writer. If I could make up these fantastical words, I'd be a writer. But I can't do that. So like, I want you to be able to force feed me or feed me some of that information, and they do some of it, but not enough, in my opinion.
I thought about this while I was playing. Like, what would I do differently? And I think I would do one of 2 things differently. I instead of all the letters, and again, I could keep some of them, but get rid of the colorful ones. I think I would tell our character story through the letters or something. So you could do
my idea was like a previous traveler, one of you, like you're finding like tablets or something, and that you could understand them because you know the language of your tribe. No one else could, but somehow you could interpret it to like, oh, I want this, and if I ever wanted to find these, I just use my little guy, and the green would show me the way, or the red would show me the way to this. Like some things that could help explain that, of things that you would know, but not necessarily the people who lived there would know at any point.
I thought you could either do you could write letters of things you did for people in the past that would tell a story, or whenever you found the murals, you, as those sort of people, that civilization, would understand the mural and be able to get more. And you don't have to voice. I get it. Voice acting is expensive. Writing dialogue, you can still deliver it through text. Like have that person have a journal. Well, he does, right? And you click on it. They do.
It's the things that you find, but yeah.
But it doesn't really tell you anything. Like,
no, it shows you just
on the mural, and it told me that backstory. Like that's what I wanted.
That would have been perfect.
It needed a bit more story there.
A little extra,
Christian.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, Alex, do you want to give your rating? I don't know if you did.
I'll give mine last. My game here.
Okay.
I just want to see where you guys fall. I have a number in my head. I just want to see where you fall.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go a 3 out of 5. So I think it's just a little bit above average. So my problems with this game, I don't have any problems with it per se. I just think my issues is that I think it's very much in the same vein as like what Preston was saying, like a grow home, grow up, or like a journey, like those kind of things. I just think that all of those games do what this game is trying to do better already. Like
Grow Home does a great job. Like it's 2 games, like it's a sequel, but like they do a really good job with their story, letting you know what's actually happening.
Yes.
And just a better world building, I feel. If anyone out there listening and played along with us that likes this kind of game, Grow Home and Grow Old. I'm forgetting the Grow games. Like, go play those. Those are incredible climbing games.
Grow Up? I don't know.
Grow Up, yes. Grow Up and Grow Home. Yeah, those are great climbing games if you just want like a fun, cozy game.
Yeah, but it's got like a nice like story to it too. Like it builds it. I think that it's really good. Obviously, Journey I think is like a damn near masterpiece
on being able to not forcibly explaining things to you, but you get what's fucking happening in that game.
But you know what's happening by the end of it. Yeah, so there's that piece of it. Like I think all that's great. So I have, that I don't think there's anything. I mean I agree with everything you guys said, right? Like I think I don't like how the story is delivered. I think that some of the honestly I even think some of the movement for the climbing is just like a tad clunky. Like had I not figured out like the stuff where I could like feather the triggers to like throw myself up very quickly, there is sometimes like when I was waiting for some of the moving like
the
bugs
rock
or whatever.
Guys,
yeah, like there's times where like it's just like very like a I don't know.
That's why I said it's not jank, but there's a little jank in it, right? It's not perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not
it kind of feels like the same kind of movement that you see like in like a quap kind of thing, where you're just like like really weird like spaghetti arms kind of thing. Which again isn't a problem. It's just it is what it is. But yeah, I was like, man, I guess it's mostly just like it's very close to being a better set. Like, I think they have a very cool premise that does not feel fleshed out all the way, and that's why it just feels like it's like, oh man, I see what you guys are doing here. Like it feels like a Journey Grow Home sort of like hybrid, but you don't do either of the two things that those two games do as well as they do. So that's just where. But I still think it's above average. I think the art design is very cool. I think there's a lot of stuff to really like about it. So yeah, I'm 3 out of 5 on the GG scale.
My number is 3.5. 5 is a masterpiece of a game. It's not going to get a 5. It never was,
Journey
right?
is a 5. Yeah, this is
this game was never going to get a 5. So the best it could have gotten 4.5. I say 3.5 for me as the number I had, just because like everything you guys just said. I love the music. I love the art design. I love the little, like, honestly is one of my favorite companions I've ever seen in a game.
Very cute.
He's super cute, but I had a little clunkiness now and again in a climbing, and I wish I had just more story. Even the ending being left to interpretation. Like, is that the ocean?
More
How did the ocean get up there?
concrete story.
Is it gonna? Yeah. And there are so many things you could have done within your capabilities as a game that kept the heart of the game, but told a better story, or told the story.
Told
right?
more of the story.
More of the story, more of you, more of everything. And you could have still done it in a really creative, easy way. So I say 3.5. I liked it. I think it's worth it. It's definitely worth it if it's still on Game Pass and you pay for Game Pass, right? Because it doesn't cost you anything. Totally worth it. On Steam,
$20 game.
You want a cozy game?
Put on your wish list. Guarantee that goes off half off one day to $10.
Yep.
1,000% worth $10. $20.
Pick it up.
Pretty good.
Maybe. If you have family sharing, worth it.
Even better.
Maybe,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that is our part 2 of another successful game book club of and that's that. Next up is Preston with our 3rd book club game of the year.
I know what this is because it's very clear. You, Alex, still somehow haven't figured it out, which is unbelievable.
He probably heard us talking yesterday.
Huh?
You say I haven't figured it out. What do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
last week you were like, what could it be?
Know what
Preston
is.
was like,
I talked about
you should definitely know what it is.
I did. Does it have to do with Jake? I did talk to Jake today. Okay, so
well,
I don't know because Jake spoiled it, because Jake is like, so here's what's funny.
He didn't know
I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the name. So Jake and I were talking, and he was like, blah, 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 this game. And I'm like, weird. I was like, I don't even think it's Preston's turn. Isn't it Christian's turn next? And he's like, well, maybe he's just planning it for the next time. I'm like, oh, all right, maybe. So, go ahead, Preston.
The game we're going to play is me righting a wrong. This will be Castlevania.
Yeah.
Symphony of the Night. I wanted to pause there because I didn't want to say another game and I feel like I had to be doing it. I thought about being funny if Alex didn't know. I was going to say we're going to do Castlevania 64. But see, you do know, so it's fine.
I do know.
So this is not a game we would normally want to do on a book club. This is not a linear game, really. Of course, there's a beginning, there's an end. You'll get there from point A to point B. There's two ways we can go about this. Me and Jake have
Maybe.
a way.
There's no difficulty slider, so I don't know. We'll see if I'm able to complete this game.
I know. Same for me, because like I'm not the greatest when it comes to Metroidvanias.
Yeah.
But I think I can. We can do this one because it's like an 8 to 10 hour maximum game. That is with people not knowing what they're doing, really trying hard to find stuff. The speedrun of this is like just over an hour. A lot of the videos I've been watching are ranging anywhere from 3 to 10 hours.
Okay.
Sometimes more.
So
It's
how are we doing
really
this?
hard to judge it. So I reached out to Jake the other night. I'm like, hey, man, I know you've beaten this. Help me figure this out. How many parts can we do this in? Is it a 10-hour game? Is it a 4-hour game? Like, what the fuck are we doing? He's like, obviously it's going to vary based on how you figure out the map and stuff like that. There's two ways to go about this. I thought it would really be funny to do it one way, but I don't think it would be funny to the other person who would get it this way. So there's a good and a bad ending to this game. I'm not going to say what it is.
I'm going to get the bad for sure.
Has
there ever been a game that I don't get the bad?
I'm going to make sure we get the good ending.
No, I don't know.
Because the good ending is twice as long as getting the bad ending. Mm-hmm. So I don't want someone to be sitting there and be like, oh, I got the bad ending, so I'll just hang out with you guys in the next part. Maybe I'll watch a video of it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, let's do it so we can all experience it. I thought it'd be really funny. We'll explain it when we get through the game. But there's essentially one thing that you have to do to get the good ending.
Okay.
Here's a character. Her name is Maria. You need an item from her. The item is some type of glasses. I don't even have this spoiled for me. I know what's going to go on in like the good ending, bad ending as far as like how you can and cannot do it. We need to get the glasses before we start heading towards the final boss, if you will. So there's going to be a point to where it's like, hey, we need to go after this person. You could get some items and make it to that person and get the bad ending. Or you can get these glasses and you make it to that person and the game is twice as long. And you get the good ending. So, part one...
I'm still going to get the bad ending. I know it.
Part one is you have to get the glasses so we can get the good ending so we have the same amount of playtime, roughly. So, get the glasses from Maria. That'll be part one. This could range depending on which items you get, because you have to get items to get the glasses. Maybe you get a whole bunch of other items before you get the glasses.
You're also, like, this game, as I recall, and I have...
We should not be doing a game like this for book club for a while, until we get to the point where we have to get these games, but...
You're very fluid in giving this time. Like, you're like, oh, I'll get the items. Like, but this game's also not easy. Like, it's not difficult easy, game.
And you're going to be looking around for stuff. So this is going to be kind of testing the waters in this type of game. We make sure not to have this type of game for a reason. Because we can't estimate the time of plays very well, things like that. Sure. So, luckily for us, we are recording a D&D session later on this week. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have, obviously we got this week, then we have D&D week, which I'm going to do D&D. It's going to be for next week. D&D is going to be next week. So we have 2 weeks to get part one done. And then part two will be to finish the game. Depending on how we do on part one, we may have a side quest in between part 1 and 2, just to give ourselves some extra time. So, we got 2 weeks to do part 1. Get the glasses for Maria.
Dude, I'm going to have this done so
Christian,
I know. I told this to Jake, too.
Christian's going to beat this game by the weekend.
I told this to Jake, too. I'm
so annoying.
Jake, it's going to take me 5 hours just to fucking get to the glasses. Like, Christian's going to have it done in an hour and a half.
That's going to be so annoying.
Here's the thing I heard. This is Jake's one, tip. Scrape the map. Scrape the map, because there'll be an objective, like, go to this person. Don't go to that person. Scrape the map as much as you can until you get over there. If you scrape the map all the way through, and you're like 5-6 hours in, and you haven't gotten the glasses from Maria, maybe fuck it. If you can get over to that person, go ahead and do it. Get the bad ending. We can talk about it.
Bro, if I get 5 or 6 hours in and haven't gotten the glasses, and that's to double the playtime, I'm not going to tell you guys, and I'm just going to watch the play.
I mean, I would appreciate it if we're all truthful. If you didn't play it, you can't play it, kind of thing. Like, just say it.
Yeah.
You can still watch the video and play and talk, have a conversation with us.
The reason I say to do that and don't watch a fucking Let's Play, is that this is one of the most celebrated video games.
I know.
It's a good game. Well, I'm sure we'll all have fun, and all you gotta do is just scrape the map and go to all rooms.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones that I've missed. Like, I've never played it, so I'm excited to see how it holds up. But that's why I say we should do it. Is that I'll be interested to see from three people who have never played it before or never finished it before. I want to see how it holds up. Like, I think that it would be very...
Me trying to figure out a stopping point was brutal. Because I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's the second time, because I'm watching these playthroughs, like, okay, see Maria once, see Maria twice. I'm like, okay, well, let's just stop at seeing Maria twice, the second time. One person had it at 4 hours. Maximilian dude had it at like an hour and a half to 45 minutes. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, there is absolutely no way of me going through playthroughs on how to chunk this up in specific time frames. Like, don't get me wrong, we've all played parts to where maybe one of us got done a little faster than the other, but this is going to be one of those things to where maybe somebody is a little faster than others. So we can do it in 2 parts, I feel. We can give ourselves extra time. If we need 2 weeks for both parts, we'll do it. That should be plenty of time for us to do this. A full month to beat this game, I think we can take care of it.
I think I just watched Ben Schwartz play this on Game Grumps too, not long ago.
No, I think you watched him play a different one. Castlevania 2 or 4?
Castlevania.
Yeah, it's a numbered one.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
I watched it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, there you go. That's what we're diving into.
Also, this game has guides. If you get stuck, just look
there is guides. Yes, if you need to.
If I get stuck, I'll look at it. I know. Games. I'll finish it. I was joking.
Do they have a GOG version, Preston? Did you look?
No. So the versions I found is obviously you can get the old school. Was it PlayStation 2 version? I think it is PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. There is a re-release of this. It is Castlevania. Preston, we'll do some edits here. Pretty sure it's Castlevania Requiem. That's a PS4 game. It is not on PC at all.
The PS1 version is Requiem.
No, the collection that has the new version for PS4.
PS1 is just Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. All right, fellas. Cool. Well, that is our second. That's our playthrough. That's all. And with that, catch us in 2 weeks where we'll come back with our first playthrough of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Preston is making good on Jake's game because with his last pick, Preston gave Jake a terrible name and reputation. Yeah, and that was
bad by giving him the best Castlevania game ever made. Probably.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. With that, Preston, you know what to do.
Jusant.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.